In this video, we are joined by our friend Sean from Ranking the Mouse. We're going to talk Magic Keys. We're going to talk Bob Iger legacy. We're even going to rank our favorite YouTubers coming up right now. Welcome aboard to another episode of OG55. Today we're talking Magic Key, Bob Iger legacy. We're ranking the YouTubers. We are joined by a very special guest, friend of the channel who we love dearly, Mr. Sean from Ranking the Mouse. Sean, welcome back, brother.
Thank you so much for having me back. I have to say, OG, it's so tough for me to come back on the channel when your hair is not at full spike and you're wearing a hat. It was just a slight disappointment for me to not see the full spiked hair, but I'm still pumped to be here.
Yes, I know. It will be back. It will make us glorious, triumphant return. I'm just kind of low on the gel right now.
Supply shortage. I get it.
You know, supply chain. It's been rough. It's been rough. But Sean, if you can let everybody at home know where they can find you on like Twitter, social media, YouTube, all that good stuff.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm Ranking the Mouse down there on everything, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram. Spend most of my time on Twitter. So if you really want to interact there, go give me a follow. You know, you can just type my name in. I'm friends with all these three guys here. So if you're friends with them, you'll see my name pop up. And yeah, you can follow me on YouTube and Instagram as well.
Perfect. Well, welcome back, brother. And to my left, but to your right, for those of you at home, I got Dr. Dre, host of the Freshly Squeezed show here on OG55-Sky. Welcome back, brother.
Hey, I really am happy to be here. If you guys want to follow me at home, you can go ahead and do so right down there at @Sky. Just go ahead and type in the Twitterverse. It should pop up right there. And if you want to see me, well, it's going to be on the channel you're watching right now at Orange Grove 55 at Freshly Squeezed, your source for juicy news and info squeezed fresh right from the Grove. And by the way, let's go ahead and get Sean Ranking the Mouse in here into the park too. And obviously, right? He's a longtime friend of the channel for sure. There you go, right there. Yep, there you go. You want to do the Magic Band? We can do Magic Band. There you go.
Yes. And down below, we got the Family Man 23, George. Welcome back, brother. If you can let everyone at home know where they can find you on social media, sir.
Absolutely. You can find me on my YouTube channel, Disney Family Man 23. You can interact with me on Twitter at Disney George. And as always, you'll find me here on Orange Grove 55 with Citrus Corner with all that sweet, juicy, and yet sticky Disney news and info.
Pay attention, it's Joe time.
Absolutely. All right. So the first topic at hand today is the Magic Key renewal situation. This is a fascinating situation. It's an ongoing story. But since we're keeping it Anaheim today, I figure we'll do a little drop.
Now let me welcome everybody to the Wild Wild West.
We're keeping it Disneyland, you know. So Magic Keys, Sean, I'm going to start with you. So we haven't had you on since this renewal situation. What are your overall thoughts in regards to how Disney handled the renewal? How that whole thing went down? I know that the whole thing is sort of contentious amongst, like, you know, the fan community, but what were your overall thoughts on that, sir?
Yeah, I definitely think it was very on brand with what we've seen from Disney from middle of COVID on, and just in terms of at least parks communication and just a lack of communication. I personally think that I don't think the price anyone should really be worried about. They could have gone nuclear with the price. They could have jacked it up way more. Maybe they should have jacked it up way more. So I'm not really too worried about the price personally. I think that was bound to happen and probably a good call. And even same with the blackout dates. I know that a lot of locals are upset by that, but that was bound to happen. They could have gone more nuclear. They could have given us way more blackouts. So I'm not too worried about that. I'm just don't enjoy the communication that we've been receiving. I get it. They're $1 billion conglomerate. It's not their prerogative to communicate with every single guest, but when they send things out to Magic Keys, like, you're our most loyal customer, like, thank you for your everything, and they don't actually care to communicate, that's where I just get frustrated and wonder what they're doing. But that's been the case since 2020. I mean, strange communication, lack of communication. So yeah, I don't really mind what they've done. I wish they'd have changed it up a little bit. I wish they would have gotten rid of monthly payments, maybe gone higher on the price, maybe even gone more loyalty program-ish. But I don't mind the actual program itself. I just think the communication around it was really, really bad. And I'm personally frustrated that they're not selling new Magic Keys. I totally get why they're only doing renewals. But just for my personal situation, I wish they were actual outright selling keys. I do have one, and I'm going to have to renew it now, but I would rather have waited a little bit. So that's just personally, though. I know overall it's not a huge deal.
Now, I want to follow up with you, Sean, a little bit. When you said you're not surprised by they're not selling new Magic Keys, what's your kind of theory or opinion on like why they're not selling those?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's still related to the lawsuit, only because of how much language they added into the current renewals, and maybe they don't want to make new people sign on to that. It's got to be them just trying to figure out what they want. I mean, I know you guys have talked on the channel a lot, and people are speculating that they're going to be able to fill the parks through Christmas, and I would assume they probably will be. I mean, we'll see for sure. Obviously, we'll see the results of that, but starting in January, maybe they'll start, selling them again. But it's got to just be them trying to see where they're at practically and see how they can fill these parks if they only have renewals. I mean, we heard upwards of 1 million APs before COVID, and now Mice Chat put out an article or Mouse Planet, I think it might have been Mouse Planet, put out an article the other day that they only had, maybe under 4,000 Dream Keys. Obviously, that's only one of the 3 keys, so the others might have sold just as much, but the top tier key has always been the most popular. So we might have been under 10K Magic Keys right now. I mean, that's pretty crazy. So yeah, I would love to know the actual numbers. Disney obviously will never release them, but so they got to, in my opinion, I think they're just trying to figure out where they're at right now.
That's a great.
Oh, go ahead.
Well, that's a great point that you brought up, Sean, about how the Dream Keys was only at 3,600 or so. That's fascinating because even if like you said, it's only one tier, but there's only 4 tiers or 5 tiers. I mean, to get to 1 million, the other tiers got to pull a lot of weight. If the top tier is only at the 3,600, that's fascinating. Dre, go ahead. I'm sorry, sir.
And 3,600, that was quite remarkable for the reasons you say, OG. It's like, I understand it's one tier, but from what I understand, that was about 35% of the overall annual pass holder population, or Magic Key population, if you will. So
Right.
I thought that was a very surprising statistic. Now, I had heard that they had called the herd, let's say, right? That they had really, restricted how many keys were sold and really getting that annual pass holder population down to a more reasonable number. But the fact that they were, they felt that 3,600 was acceptable. I'm kind of surprised by that, for sure. And I do agree with you, Sean. I think they are kind of attempting to figure out here what they want to kind of do going forward. I think they're limiting it to renewals just to kind of see how many people do end up renewing, and then maybe they'll open that a little bit to new people on the program. I do think Christine Wastelands McCarthy and others, right? They do want to have a repository of APs from which to pull from, especially now as we kind of get deeper into these kind of economic market forces, if you will. So they kind of want to have that in their back pocket, right? So they can pull from that if required. And I think they want to kind of see how all that fleshes out. I do agree with you. I would have liked the communication, it's myself, but even you mentioned, right, how you kind of feel this this kind of urge to this kind of sense of urgency to renew. I think that was very much intentional. All these things were kind of intentional on Disney's part to kind of get as many renewals as possible to get people kind of interested in this program again, with a new kind of inspired tier that has a very well illustrated in terms of service, so they can control the level of access that they have for these Magic Key holders. I think it was all kind of very designed, and it's unfortunate that they had to go that route, but I guess it's just how the cookie crumbles sometimes.
Yeah. Well, I've said many times on social media and even on the channel, if you're not happy, then don't renew. But that's a fair point that I think Sean and you, Dre, mentioned, where there is a sense of if you don't get on that renew train now, you might not ever get on it. So people might be very unhappy, but they might feel I'm kind of forced into renewing, because if I don't renew, I don't know when the next window will open up for me. So that's a fair point. George, what do you think about the renewal situation?
Do you fellas even think that a window is even going to open up at all? I mean, because isn't that the whole main goal, that the company is trying to reduce down the annual pass holders so they wouldn't be put in a situation like this ever again? So if a window then opens, wouldn't it just the floodgates open and everyone renews again, and there you go. You're stuck with all these annual pass holders, and then having more blackout dates or blackout dates or what have you? Or do you think that they would do it like in increments where it's like you have so much time from this date to this point of time? If you're not there at that precise moment, then you don't have a chance of even getting a pass.
So that's kind of what I thought about too, George. And I think it's a I think they definitely do want to have a more manageable annual Magic Key pass holder population, right? Than before when they had like over 1 million annual passes or something like that. If the timeline is right, and I'm kind of thinking about it in my head right now, they stopped selling keys when the lawsuit dropped, because I think they kind of rapidly understood, oh crap, we're not going to be able to control the level of access that these Magic Keys actually receive on the back end. So we have to do it on the front end if that's the case, right? And that's when things start to open up a little bit wider and so forth. If they get to a point, and their terms of service is pretty clear, that they can control the level of access for everybody on the back end, then potentially they could sell as many as they want and limit them that way. Now,
because of the lawsuit, that was primarily for the Magic Keys for Disneyland.
Yes, the highest stream key tier.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm still curious to know, why Walt Disney World has stopped theirs, because they have a totally different type of system. So I wonder if it's Disney's mentality to kind of have a more stricter amount of people who are annual pass holders, because this just goes beyond Disneyland.
Yeah, I don't think it's just, I mean, the lawsuit plays a massive no pun intended, cog into this, obviously, because of the language we've seen and just the reality of the lawsuit. But yeah, to George's point, it's not the only reason. I mean, Disney, starting with the Flex Pass, even pre-COVID, and now the fact that Disney World's not selling annual passes. Yeah, they're clearly trying to, I mean, I think the true answer is they're trying to have their cake and eat it too. They're trying to see where they're at. They obviously have to have both. The second a recession hits, they have to instantly have annual passes back.
Yep.
And so, but I mean, Chapek and Wastelines basically lined that out for us in the last investor call. I mean, they basically said without saying that they will open up, the faucet when they need to, and they'll close the faucet when they need to. And so, I mean, I'm pretty sure we've already seen that. They'll open the faucet when they need Magic Keys. And to George's point, the second they open that faucet, it'll be an instant flow. And the second they need to turn that faucet off, they can turn it back off. And as far as locals go, I think that's fine. I mean, that's going to create huge demand. But as far as tourists go, that's where I don't love it. If you're a tourist coming in from international for 7 days, and it makes more sense for you to buy a Magic Key, or you're trying to plan 2 trips because you haven't been able to travel in 2 years, and so you want to. That's where it becomes very tough. And I think even you guys have joked on the channel like, oh, they should sell it to only out-of-staters. Obviously, I don't think they should practically do that, but there is something to that. Like, hey, this works for locals, but you're kind of screwing your tourist guests, and those are the dollars that you want because they're going to spend more when they come. And so that's where I think it's going to become a sticky situation.
Oh, I've said numerous times on this show, hey, can we get maybe a discount program or something that makes it these keys a little bit more accessible to out-of-staters? Because out-of-staters, or international or domestic tourists, that kind of thing, that are outside the area, they obviously can't use the perks that are given out to these to Magic Key holders on as regular of a basis as people who frequent the parks regularly within 250 miles or so forth. So it's like, why can't we provide for discounting or what have you to make these things a little bit more accessible to people who really can't use them all that much. It's crazy to me. I do think you're right. I think with regards to the Chapek and Wasteland comments, for sure, that's exactly what they want. Most importantly, however, they've set up in their terms of service that they can do just that. They can turn off that spigot without any regards for backlash in the form of lawsuit or other legal exposure. So I think you're exactly right. But yes, I do very much agree with you. Can we, provide these keys for people out of state a little bit easier than we are now? I think we absolutely can.
Yeah, and it even is more true for Florida. I mean, the fact that they're not selling annual passes to anybody, and obviously we know that tourism is a big 80 to 90% of their guests. And so the fact that they're not throwing them out of state there, the fact that they're not even allowing DVC members to buy annual passes, in my opinion, is absolutely insane, both from a guest standpoint and from a brand standpoint. I mean, they are
absolutely
so damaging their long-term brand, and they're damaging the brand of the clientele they're going after. And I don't even mean like the rich of the rich, because a lot of people that aren't the rich of the rich but just frequent Disney will use their payment plan with DVC, where you finance it, and it's a hell of an interest rate. So I'd actually advise not to do it. But anyways,
right.
And
I agree.
The amount of DVC, dollar sign goes. I mean, they should be that shouldn't even shut down for them. Anything really DVC once, honestly, those are the ones I really hate to say, not as a pass hold sort of thing, but in the notion of, if you're a DVC member, of the money that you're putting out for, you should be able to get anything.
I agree, and look, I've seen DVC salesmen. They're kind of repping the whole DVC thing. They're kind of trying to sell this thing, and when the question comes up, hey, look, listen, can I get an annual pass? And when they can't actually facilitate that call gets hung up on almost immediately. I mean, it's like it's a make or break. If I can't guarantee access to these parks from which, I'm buying into resort-wise, why the hell am I going to buy into it? I mean, that
kills DVC sales.
That's what I'm saying.
Disney World alone has 750 DVC resorts, and it's like, if people want to even buy into it, it's like, why do it?
Yeah. And that argument there, not to get too off track, but is a big argument of my response of the response to, vote with your wallet, or if you don't like it, don't go. I'm a DVC member, so I am contractually obligated to go. I'm obsessed with the Walt Disney Company, so I want to go to these D23 events and Destination D, which is right near the parks. I love their after ticket events, Oogie Boogie Bash. So I'm going to go to Oogie Boogie Bash. And so, to not have an annual pass, I don't love what's going on in the parks right now, but I still love the company enough and have DVC and all this, so I don't need to buy an annual pass. And so, I don't want to renew my pass, but I have to be one of those stupid ass suckers that is going to have to renew his pass, because I'm going to D23. I'm going to Oogie Boogie Bash. I have DVC. I know it sounds stupid, but I don't really have the option, because I love the Walt Disney Company so much that no matter what the parks are doing, unless I'm just going to go kick it in Garden Walk for 3 days, so.
Well, no, and it doesn't sound stupid, because we all love this company, and we are getting a little bit of an echo, George. Just
I heard it on my end. I don't think it's George. I think it's Sean, unfortunately.
Is it? What can I do?
Yeah. Well, if you can, whatever your playback device is, whether it's a pair of speakers or your, just if you could turn that down a little bit, because that's what echoes back into the microphone itself. But I don't know, all good. No, it's this kind of profound thing here where I think a lot of people want access to these parks on a more frequent basis.
Right.
But it all kind of speaks to okay, if it's DVC, can't we make an exception for DVC? I mean, these people are shelling out so much cash. They require that kind of access as part of their purchase, and yet we can't facilitate those transactions. There should be, like I said, I mean, Chapek talks about a more surgical approach to pricing and handling demand, supply, whatever. Okay, yes. Can we be more surgical and offer a DVC pass, right?
Yes, and even a Club 33 pass, because I know, with them, they've kind of adopted some of the the old school Premier Pass stuff, and like you said, Dre, surgically go in there and do it like a DVC pass, a 33 pass. And really kind of clean this up, because it's a mess right now.
It's a mess.
Yeah, and the fact that the biggest fact for me is the fact that Disney World is still not selling annual passes. Because if it was just Disneyland, you could say, well, they can still go to Florida. That's where most of the DVC buildings are. But the fact that Florida is not selling to anyone, DVC or out of state or anybody, if you're not renewing, and the fact that in the past, and maybe still the present, but in the past, Disney relied on the money coming in, their income for food, hotels, off-property stuff, shopping. Ticket sales were just a tiny piece of the pie. And you're really hurting yourself, especially with how much money DVC members will spend on hotel stays, or even anybody in general will stay on hotel stays. But if you can't get an annual pass, or you can only, get reservations for 3 or 4 days, you're not going to buy your 10-day ticket or your annual pass and go stay at a hotel for 2 weeks. You're going to go off-property Universal and spend their money elsewhere. So, it's crazy to me that they're sacrificing bigger pieces of the pie for the tiny piece of the pie that is ticket sales. I mean, that's not the revenue generator for the Walt Disney Company. It's 1/100th for the company, food sales and hotel sales being a way bigger chunk. So it's crazy they're sacrificing that for a tiny little piece of the pie.
And
what's interesting?
Oh, go ahead.
Well, real quick, I also want to say, even internationally, from what I understand, Tokyo Disney has put a full stop on their annual pass sales, if I'm not mistaken there. So even they're pulling back on the pass holder.
They're a different beast over there, though.
Completely different beast. I mean, but the population density is ridiculous. But yeah, I mean, no, it's a very surprising thing. Also, too, I mean, look, if you're having renewals and whatever upgrades, fine, okay, that's what you want to do. But I remember at the last shareholders meeting, not the quarterly earnings call, but the shareholders meeting where shareholders can actually call in and speak to some of these executives directly. Chapek fielded the call about a dual resort pass situation there, and how that I guess he had called multiple times, called them Bob Iger to institute it. He didn't, and then when they finally did, it only lasted for a couple of years, and then it was off again with the events of 2020 and beyond. And he was asking, like, can we get this back on again? I mean, this is one of the things that you could do, maybe necessarily for your DVC holders, right? Institute a dual coast pass so that way people who may have bought into the system already, whether they be at Disneyland or Walt Disney World, can now upgrade to this kind of tier, facilitate transactions and visitation between those two resorts there, and you're golden. That I don't understand why they haven't done. It was an obvious move back in the day. I understand it's not going to be the highest selling product, but obviously there is a market for it, and I think it would be good to institute it in lieu of actually opening these passes to purchases again. Also, too, I thought it was very interesting. I don't know if you guys noticed this, but it was brought to light to me that I guess the perks, the merchandise and food perks, the various discounts that you get as part of the Magic Key program, I guess they're only available to Magic Key holders on days that they're not blocked out. What do you guys feel about that? I actually don't feel that's a very good move, because now that puts more onus on the days that aren't blacked out, essentially, and you might get a little bit more congestion at Downtown Disney, or even the parks themselves, as a result of that, from people wanting to use their discounts. What do you guys feel about that? I'm not totally in agreement with that, but maybe your thoughts might change my mind.
Yeah, Disneyland's tough because, like you said, Dre, with just the congestion. But I think Disney's really underestimating the mindset of, I don't want to miss out on the deal, where pass holders, me included, I'm sure everyone included, will go buy something because they don't want to miss out on the deal, even though you're not going to lose money in the long run. So I think Disney's really undervaluing the, how much, and maybe they're not, maybe this is why they didn't go with a rewards program, but I think they're missing how much, people really will spend, especially if they feel like they're getting some sort of discount. And I don't think it was a bad idea at all. In fact, I could probably say it was a good idea that they blocked out Christmas and that 8 days from like the 24th through the 2nd. That's going to sell out no matter what. And so I'm not against that. But yeah, are you going to entice annual pass holders to buy a ticket on top of their AP if they have that discount, for those holidays, go Christmas shopping, whatever, post-Christmas shopping. And now they don't have that discount. They might not be incentivized to go. So
that's interesting.
Overall, I think the company is just trying to find ways to make it easier for us, but it's making it more difficult for them, because it's like, rather than just go from point A to point B to point C and just like let everything flow, they have to go from point A to point A1 to point A2 to point A3 to B to, it's like they just go through so many different variations of things. It's like, just keep it simple.
George, do you not enjoy the flexibility as afforded by Wastelands and others? I mean, it's consumer choice there, George. I thought you were...
Well, and the interesting thing, too, is that, Chapek and company, they're looking at the data, because Chapek's like obsessed with the data. And like what you said, Dre, is like they're looking at that and going, okay, so your AP discount, your Magic Key discount doesn't work on days you're blocked out, which excludes Downtown Disney then. Because if you can't get in the park, you can't spend in the park, basically. So it really is a Downtown Disney thing. So I'm curious if they're looking at that data going, okay, well, Magic Keys don't really spend that much money in downtown Disney, I guess. So it's not really much of a loss. That's interesting.
Yeah, maybe so. But I think that's true for the overall Magic Key program. But I think they're ignoring the tiers that they themselves place. I think, the Southern California pass, I don't think they spend much in the parks. I don't think they spend much in downtown Disney. The Dream / now Inspire pass, I think they spend a shit ton in the parks and a shit ton in Disney, downtown Disney. And so, granted, you can't say like, hey, Dream Key or Inspire Key, you have a discount or whatever. Well, maybe you could actually. I don't know. But I think that overall, locals and keys don't spend as much. But I don't think that, that's the macro level. You do have the micro level where some of the Dream Key, Inspire Key holders spend way more than the average guest. And so, now you're kind of throwing the baby out with the bathwater, so to speak. So You're kind of screwing yourself in the process.
Much more surgical. They got to get much more surgical. They got to get much more refined with this, and because I think they're really leaving money on the table with some of these decisions, and especially like DVC and stuff like that. Yeah, they got to get a little bit more.
If the parks are full, I get it, but you're losing money on everything besides the parks. You're losing money on your downtown Disney shoppers. You're losing money on your hotels because you're alienating your most loyal fan base. And like Disney Springs will not hit full capacity with just, local Floridian or just tourists or whatever. Like they need, like those are the types of things in like some of the hotels at Disney World that need every single point of fan base that they can draw from, international, local, domestic tourism. Disneyland, maybe not as much, but I still think like downtown Disney, like no offense, but Tortilla Joe's is not filling up from out of state guests. And it is. So like, that's just, they're losing money for sure. I agree.
Yeah. And it puts more emphasis or more stress on the parks themselves, because if people can't get their discount on, let's say, days that they are blacked out, then they'll just make reservations just to get into the parks and shop that way. It just, to me, it just doesn't make quantitative sense to me. Like, I get it. I understand you want to restrict those perks in any way you can, but to the point where maybe it's going to hurt you in terms of sales and revenue, I don't think that's necessarily a smart play.
Yeah, this is the type of stuff that if it happened in like mid 2020 or like early 2021, I would tell everyone like, calm down. This is just a COVID measure. But I mean, we're going into late 2022. Like, I know there's still supply shortage. I know there's still staff shortage. I know the effects of COVID are still hitting us. But at what point do we go, what is going on? I mean, just the communication alone, like we talked about earlier in the show, but how much money they're leaving on the table. Like George was talking about how insanely complex this is getting. I mean, I'm just one person, so this is purely anecdotal, but I feel like I'm one of the biggest Disney shills out there. I'll go no matter what. And my wife and I just bought Universal passes to each coast because it's just so much easier. Like, do we enjoy Universal more than Disney? No, we don't. Is it way easier? And so it makes us just want to say, F it, let's just go to Universal some days? Absolutely. And so, I mean, I know Disney doesn't care about that right now because they're filling their parks, but at what point does long-term brand damage and long-term brand loyalty come into play? And at what point do, they just not care because they're going to be at a different job at that point? And so, I mean, I personally blame Chapek a bit for it, but I also blame Ken Potrock. I also blame Jeff Volley at WDW. I blame DeMorrow, who's the head of the parks. Like, maybe some of this is out of their play, but at some point, just like in football, the head coach, it might not be his fault, but he's got to take the blame. I mean, and for me, it goes the blame to them. So
with Universal, it's interesting because it's kind of, in my opinion, I think Universal is sort of dealing with a different situation. They're kind of like in the Disney Plus category where they're trying to build market share against Netflix, right? So they're gonna give you every deal. They're gonna kiss your ass to get that market share. Disney's sort of like, fuck, man, we got so much demand, we don't know what to do with it. We got to mitigate this to some degree. I do find it also interesting too with the narrative around the kind of conversation around Epic Universe, and I've noticed this actually, that the excitement around, there's not that much excitement around the park itself. It's more, the conversation is more about what will Disney's response be to Epic Universe. So it's not like, oh, people are like, oh man, I can't wait for the Monsters Land. It's more about, oh, what's Disney's response? Even Epic Universe is about fucking Disney.
I mean, the Unibros would disagree. The Unibros are going hard for this park.
Oh yeah, they're going hard, man. They're going hard. But
you see the Unibro side or the Diz side. I mean, yeah.
I just don't see it though. I see the conversation being dominated by Epic Universe there. What's Disney's response though? What's Disney's response? That's the main conversation piece. From what I'm seeing on like Diz Twitter and things like that, I don't really see so much about like, oh, what IP is Universal going to add? What kind of attraction? No. It's what's Disney's response going to be, and that says a lot.
I got a couple YouTubers for our last segment that'll maybe shed some helpful light in that conundrum there.
Oh,
interesting.
Very interesting.
I mean, I agree with you. I agree with you in terms of Twitter. YouTube, there's a lot of hype building for Epic Universe. Twitter, I mean, there are pockets of Twitter where it's, massive, but yeah, Twitter is not as much. But YouTube, the excitement's building for Epic on YouTube for sure.
Interesting. And I know our boy Theme Park Wizard is super hyped, man. He sent me a text yesterday going like, the rumors are fucking crazy. We're Epic Universe. He's loving it. He's absolutely loving it.
I'm not going to lie. When they first announced it, I was when they announced it, I didn't love the name. I still don't love the name. I didn't love the location, and I didn't love the combo of like, oh, Universal is equaling Disney. But I gotta say, man, I'm pumped for this park. Like the possibilities for this park. I know it's not a different segment, but I'm pumped for it.
We can digress a little bit. Like how I want to ask you guys, because I'm not as privy to Universal. How far is Epic Universe from like Universal Orlando? Like, are we talking like a 10-minute drive, a 2-minute drive? Like, is it like pretty close, or is it kind of far?
I think it's like far enough where I think it's more comfortable to drive it than it is to walk it.
I don't think I'm pretty sure it's not walkable. I could definitely be wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure 99% of guests will be bust. Granted, viewers are going to say, "Oh, Disney World's parks are millions of miles away." 100% agreed. 100% agreed. And I don't love that about Disney World, but that's a full resort. Whereas Universal Orlando, what was nice about it was it's this pocket-sized resort, and you could walk from basically every hotel except for a couple to basically every park. And now they're just kind of it's kind of like Disneyland where it's a pocket. And if they just like bought Angel Stadium and just threw a park at Angel Stadium, I would feel the same way. Like, okay, I'm pumped for a new park, but like we got to build a monorail or something, And so Universal's just doing buses, which whatever. I don't love that part of it, but
well, they had to. I mean, they bought I think there was the Wet and Wild site or whatever, and they had to kind of tear that whole thing up. And Orlando, unfortunately, it kind of built up. So it's like, okay, we'll take the closest parcel of land to the existing resort right now. Not a great situation, I will admit, in terms of location. But I mean, some of the rumors coming out of this place are, like I said, I mean, they're pretty insane.
Yeah. And they are throwing up multiple hotels, so that definitely helps curb the this is really far away factor. Whereas like Disney threw something at Angel Stadium, or Toy Story's not far enough, so like somewhere farther away, but they threw in like a mini downtown Disney and like a couple of hotels. That definitely helped curb the distance factor.
Well, and one thing that's interesting, and then I'll go to George, in relation to California, because
Now let me welcome everybody to the Wild Wild West.
We gotta keep it Cali. But in terms of California, one of my main things with Universal Hollywood is really like it wasn't designed to be a theme park. It was obviously a studio that they sort of improvised and made it a theme park. Now, we've heard a lot of issues about Six Flags right now, and rumors that, I don't know, like they're really struggling.
$40 parking.
$40 parking for Six Flags.
Horrible issues right now.
It's just crazy. So if there is a day, maybe when Six Flags is no more, I would love to see Universal take over the Six Flags Magic Mountain land over there in Valencia and build like a real kind of like an Epic Universe or an Island of Adventure kind of park there, like a real traditional kind of theme park. Disney would shit their pants if Universal did that. Will it happen? Probably not, but I would love to see that. Absolutely love to see it.
For sure. It's funny that Epic Universe is the first iteration we're seeing of a theme park really branching outside of the resort. I know Disney World's parks are spread out, but it's all their resort, because we saw the Disney rumor with the Queen Mary, back in the day, Disneyland never came to fruition. And Universal Hollywood has never been able to buy a parcel of land and expand outside of their resort. And so, so Epic Universal, we'll see, how it works.
Maybe this is a blueprint for that. Maybe it's just like, hey, look, listen, this isn't necessarily within proximity of our existing parks, not to the extent that we would want necessarily, but hey, if it pans out, if we can put up a bunch of resorts, like you said, if we can put up like a Downtown Disney or Universal City Walk 2.0 outside the gates, right, and kind of attract people that way, can it stand on its own 2 feet? Maybe that is, hey, look, listen, if it works out here, maybe it's going to work over there as well. This is why I'm incredibly excited, because this is kind of the first theme park in the kind of the modern era for our kind of domestic, I don't know, theme park fandom. This is a really kind of great thing to see, and I'm very interested in seeing how they kind of push this genre forward in multiple ways with this project.
To that point, and I wanted to ask George too, I feel like one thing that's really going to help Epic Universe, we just talked about, is they're throwing in a couple hotels there. And I feel like that's the one thing really holding Universal Hollywood back, is that they don't have an on-site hotel. And so like even my wife and I, we would go stay there. We love Universal Hollywood. I think it's a multi-day park. There's no hotels. Yeah, I can go stay at the Hilton on the hill, but it's like, that's not, I don't want to stay at a random house Hilton. I can go do that wherever. And so I think that's holding Universal Hollywood back. And so George, I know on your channel, you have a bunch of, hotel rankings and hotel, thoughts. And so what are your thoughts on that? Like, do you think that's a really important aspect, or am I overplaying that as a hotel fan?
No, absolutely. I mean, it even goes back to even Disney. Like, that was, an issue coming out of the gate with Disneyland, where Walt actually wanted to have that incorporated in Walt Disney World, where there would be hotels on location that's adjacent to the parks, because that's the cash grab. That's what's going to give guests the attention to say, hey, you know what? This is a multi-day experience. We want to be part of it. So what better way? Have a hotel nearby, and then there goes cash flow to the company.
It's kind of insane. To put a finer point on that, originally they weren't going to be operated by Disney, the Contemporary nor the Polynesian. They took over those products when the original builders couldn't actually facilitate that date, and it was like, okay, well, you know what? We're taking control of this. We're taking control of the operation. They were just following Walt's footsteps in having Jack Wagner and so forth build Disneyland Hotel and all that kind of stuff. They kind of stumbled into the hotel game, and yet it's a huge segment of their business, and it's really the cash cow that fuels Walt Disney World's revenue stream. I mean, it's just unbelievable amounts of money. And I've always said that that's what limits Disneyland Resort and their investment, because the ROI is just not the same as it is in Walt Disney World, when you have so many hotels from which to pull guests in, have people stay, and see these parks. So I would agree with you. Universal Studios Hollywood, one of the big hindering factors, regarding investment of Universal. It's just, how do we capitalize on it? We don't have any hotels from which to do so.
Yeah, and that's really a good point you both brought up, because I feel like it kind of brings it full circle in terms of talking about, return on investment and all that. If you name the top 5 like most expensive restaurants at Walt Disney World, none of them are in the parks. Victoria and Albert's. I know Shula's is at Swan and Dolphin, so it's not Disney owned, but Shula's.
Yeah,
I can name 5 of them right now. And at Disneyland, Steakhouse 55, it's closed, unfortunately, but you have Naples, you have Napa Rose, you have Craftsman, you have
California Grill.
California Grill, California Grill, Storybook Land, or whatever. Storytellers, yeah. And so, and even to my earlier point about like the lower tier Magic Key at Disneyland don't spend money. The higher tier keys, like Dream Keys, they'll go drop a couple $100 at Napa Rose. They'll go drop $200-$300 at Craftsman. Like, yeah, the highest of the high tourists are doing that, but most average tourists don't even know that exists. And so, yeah, hotels are really big on getting that ROI, getting that income that's not being spent at the parks. And that's another reason why not selling annual passes to DVC or Club 33 or whoever really hurts. They're not, okay, then I won't go spend money at Napa Rose or, California Grill, whatever.
Or like I said, restricting those perks for when they're not blocked out. It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Let's pivot now to Bob Iger and his legacy. Now, we've done a lot of videos on this channel lately, kind of railing against Bob Iger, but I want to bring a different perspective on the channel in terms of Bob Iger and his legacy and kind of his post CEO kind of
There it is, man. There it is.
Yes.
Daddy's home.
And I really did want to bring a different perspective on this, because I do want to have, I do not, that's one of the things with this channel. I do not want to have just a circle jerk of one opinion. I want to definitely have a variety of viewpoints. And Sean is very much in the Bob Iger camp. He's not as critical as we are in regards to his post CEO life, and I want to kind of pick his brain a little bit now, Sean. In terms of Bob Iger and his legacy, now we're a little bit further removed from his tenure at Disney, right? He's been out of Disney, even off the board, since December. It's been like 8 months or something like that. What's your overall viewpoint on the Iger legacy, on his impact on Disney, all that good stuff? We'll kind of use that as like a jumping off point to our discussion.
For sure. Yeah, I'm definitely an Iger fan. I wouldn't say I'm supportive or a big fan of his post Disney legacy. Most of my issues, in fact, my only real issues with Iger come from his last 18 months or so of being in office. I think that Iger, his first, 90% of his tenure was one of the best, tenures we've seen of a CEO of a conglomerate. I mean, the things he did from, not from the artistic side, but Iger himself admitted that he wasn't an artistic mind and that he would, put people in place for that. And he did. I mean, getting Kevin Feige and MCU has got to be one of the single-handed, just most insane acquisitions of all time.
No question.
Just ever. I mean, Lucasfilm, it trumps Lucasfilm so much, and acquiring Lucasfilm is one of the greatest acquisitions ever. And so most of my issues with Iger, and to be fair to you guys, a lot of the things you guys blast Iger for did come within his last 18 months of his tenure. Yeah. And that's where I have most of the issues with Iger. That's also where I have all of my issues with Eisner. That's also where we see a lot of problems with Walt. That's also, and so I don't think Iger's alone and that the last 18 months of his tenure were rough and that he should have stepped down when he originally planned to. But I mean, if you ask an Eisner fan that only knows the last 3 years of Eisner's legacy, you would have said he's the worst thing to ever happen to the Walt Disney Company and almost single-handedly ruined the parks, with Disneyland Paris, every trickle down that Disneyland Paris had from there. But the first, 80% of Eisner's legacy were incredible. I mean, he built Walt Disney World in terms of what it is today as a 4-park, just massive resort. And so, so that's just kind of where I'm at with Iger. I have two main issues with Iger, and both of those stem from his last 18 months, whereas 90% of his legacy, and I don't like to look at things from a recency bias, even with sports or Disney or whatever, I don't like to look at, what just happened the last 2 months, that speaks for everything. I like to look at the whole thing. And so overall, I think Iger's legacy was a massive positive. The stains that are on his legacy come from the last couple of years.
Sean, that's a brilliant point. That's an absolutely brilliant point. When you said the stains on his legacy are the last 18 months, and that a lot of other CEOs have that same issue. That's 100% right. If you look at Michael Eisner, it's not even the last 18 months of his tenure. Arguably the last 10 years of Michael Eisner's tenure was kind of bad, right? So that's a fair point to make. We're if we're going to judge these CEOs, most of the time, the last few years are not the greatest. That's why they were kind of, moved off and replaced. So that's a brilliant point. What do you think about that, Dre?
We even saw that with Walt before Dre's point. I mean, obviously Walt Disney is the king of the world. Everything Walt Disney has done has changed all of our lives, but he was very out of it the last couple of years in terms of hands-on with the parks. I mean, he basically gave that thing off and said, I'm done with Disneyland. And so, I mean, obviously Walt's the CEO, the I don't want to say throne, the CEO chair that everyone should look up and strive to be. But even he had his issues in terms of the parks towards the end of the tenure.
No, he did. And even animation, he really checked out with animation. He checked out with animation. Totally checked out. He kind of delegated that to his most trusted creatives in the studio, and he really checked out with that, And so, that's a great point, Sean. What do you think, Dre? In terms, we talked a lot about Bob Iger on the show. I think Sean makes a good point though, where Eisner, even Walt Disney, the last few years of their tenures weren't exactly spotless either.
Well, I'll first start off by defending Walt a little bit, because Walt Disney, I mean, was he moving on from the parks, from Disneyland itself? in that era? Yes. But that doesn't mean he was moving away from it completely. I mean, he was still working on Pirates of the Caribbean, which opens in February 1967. He's working on New Tomorrowland, which opens that summer of 67. Right before his death in November of 66, he's christening the opening of Small World as it opens in Disneyland. He moved all of his 1964-65 World's Fair attractions over to Disneyland, right? The Prime of World diorama, the people mover infrastructure there that provided propulsion for that attraction. Great one was Mr. Lincoln. So I mean, he was still investing in Disneyland. I don't think he necessarily checked out, but he was moving on, right? He was looking at the ski resort up there in the Sierra Mountains. He was looking at Walt Disney World, obviously, and kind of bigger and better things down the road there. So, and he was still pushing the company towards a path, right, that would eventually lead to the opening of Walt Disney World in October 1st, 1971. So, like, I can kind of see where maybe some of the maybe there was a less of a prioritization, less of an emphasis on Disneyland itself, but I think he was still kind of pushing the company in directions that would see them very successful into the future. As far as Iger goes, however, and I'll agree with your statements on Eisner. I think, like, even after Disneyland Paris opens in 1992, you still get Animal Kingdom in 1998, right? You still get a significant investment in Walt Disney World, not necessarily to the level that we saw pre-Paris, but certainly he did continue that level of investment. As far as Iger goes, though, couple issues. One is the level of investment for Walt Disney World. Yes, we did get Avatar. We did get Toy Story Land. We did get Star Wars Galaxy's Edge. No question there. But I mean, it was nothing like the rate of expansion that we were seeing before with Michael Eisner. Just being honest there. We didn't get necessarily 2 parks worth. We didn't get dozens, a slew of resorts there. So I think the lack of investment in Walt Disney World overall. What was that?
But don't you also think, though, that that's kind of a little bit like that kind of level of growth is unsustainable, though? Like if Iger was to match what Eisner did in terms of growth,
sure,
wouldn't that be a little too much at that point? Like,
I'm not saying that he should have necessarily matched it. I'm just saying it was a huge step back, and I think a lot of people what they have problems with in regards to Walt Disney World are stems from the fact that they didn't have continuous growth. Maybe not on the same level as Eisner for sure, because Eisner was insane. On the same day, I think they opened Typhoon Lagoon, the Grand Floridian, Disney's Hollywood Studios or Disney MGM at that time. I mean, it was crazy, nuts, right? I'm not saying that it should have necessarily gone that far, but a lot of people feel that Walt Disney World's underbuilt. Well, a lot of that underbuilt feeling, I mean, that wasn't really usurped, right, by the Iger era. So I have kind of issues there. Also, too, investments in China wouldn't necessarily gone there. Myself personally, we had a whole show on that, though. My feelings are there if anybody wants to see them. Also, too, like the $70 billion investment, right, into Fox. That I mean, again, that's still debt. And look at how David Zaslav's dealing with that debt, right? That's still debt that the company still needs to manage, right? That they still have cash flow issues. Even Chapek talked about solvency, right? During the shareholders call when asked about different projects that were coming out, he says we have to get to a point where we can get our cash flow issues resolved. A lot of that stems from that late term decision, and then right on the cusp of the company going down. The kind of the pandemic train, right? In March of 2020, guess who jumped ship? Right. And he knew it was coming because Shanghai was already closed, and that was his baby park. That was the park that he was going to retire on after it opened originally. That's how strongly he exactly the pandemic train choo-choo, right? That's how strongly he felt about Shanghai, and yet that park closed and he's out. I'm sorry, he abandoned the ship a little bit there.
No, I'm not disagreeing there. I don't think anyone would disagree that his timing and how he checked out the last 6 months was awful. Yeah, I don't disagree there at all.
Which is, to your point, it's the last 18 months. that speaks to your point for sure.
Yeah, Georgie, what do you think, man? Bob Iger's legacy, good, bad, ugly, indifferent?
I think honestly, it's all of the above, to be honest with you. And I think this kind of goes for anyone who has the role of CEO for the Walt Disney Company, even going back to Ron Miller, with Walt's son-in-law. I mean, everyone plays to their strengths but also has weaknesses. And right. I feel that a strength of Iger was majority of all the acquisitions that he made. I mean, that was, global between Lucasfilm, Marvel, Pixar. I feel like the parks and the company, even going down to Disney Plus, really wouldn't be sustainable had they not made those purchases. However, I feel like there was a time in the company as time progressed that his demeanor, so to speak, kind of just started dipping. And that, again, as saying what Sean and then Dre had said, the last 18 months or so for me is where it was kind of showing, again, it's not how you start, it's how you finish. And how he finished, it makes me reflect on, was everything of his intentions in the company for the company or just for himself?
Yeah.
The last part, yeah, I have questions about that. Like we talked about NBA experience.
Yeah, NBA experience. What's up with that? It's like,
yeah.
Go ahead, sorry.
That is one where I would probably defend Iger, not the NBA experience. Obviously, he did that because of his friendship with Adam Silver, and it was a complete bust, and probably you could even argue a misuse of funds. But the NBA relationship as a whole, you could say, yeah, he wants to buy a team. It's for his personal gain. But the money that is brought in, NBA is the highest increase in grossing sport in the country right now. Yep. The money that the NBA bubble brought in the middle of the pandemic, the relationship they have with ESPN. ESPN was dipping pretty heavy in like the mid 2010s, even late 2000s, and it's had a resurgence. And a huge reason for that is because of the NBA. When you have football and you look at the concussions and the injuries and all the lawsuits, and you look at baseball and just the declining viewership, basketball could very well be the number one sport in America down the road. And whether you care about sports or not, that's a massive fan base in the country. So yeah, but in terms of the end of his legacy, 100%. For me, all of the problems I have with Iger come from the last 18 months. But I do think that we're seeing the negative effects of the last 18 months are coming into fruition right now. And so it hurts right now. But I think in 10 years, I don't want to keep going back to Eisner every time, but it's so funny because the first 2/3 of Eisner's tenure was so insanely incredible. And the last 1/3 was so incredibly horrendously awful. And so I need to, make that comparison, but I do feel like time is going to look on Eisner fondly because of the vast majority that he did well. And so I feel like that'll be the same for Iger but we're seeing the negative effects of what he did. We're seeing $70 billion for Fox and they're not even utilizing it. But what happens in 20 years when that $70 billion is paid off? And we're seeing Nat Geo, we're seeing, every X-Men, Simpsons, everything that comes with that. And that obviously they might sell that off, and you guys brought that up, and I will agree that some of those assets would be beneficial to them to sell off. And I obviously 100% agree with the negative effects that $70 billion has done to Disney's cash flow. It's awful, but we're seeing the negative effects of it right now. And in 10 years, we'll start seeing the positive effects. And so, yeah, right now, I don't even disagree with a lot of what you guys have said on Iger. I just think overall his legacy will be looked at so fondly. You look at the negative things that Walt has done. Who cares? He's done so much good for the company. And Eisner, you look at DCA 1.0, you look at Disneyland Paris. Insane, Six Flags level stuff. And now, fantastic parks. And you don't even really think about it that much when you look at Eisner's legacy as a whole. And so, yeah, I don't even really disagree with a lot of what you guys bring up against Iger. I just think we're seeing the negative effects of it now. In 10 years, a lot of that is going to be nullified. Not nullified, but mitigated.
You bring up great points. Number one, I've said it before and I'll say it again. National Geographic is one of the best things that Disney acquired in the Fox acquisition.
Yep.
Because National Geographic fits that Disney kind of, I don't know what to say, that Disney mission statement, so to speak. It's kind of a continuation of the Walt True Life Adventures, back in the day on a much bigger scale.
Yeah.
I think Walt Disney would absolutely fall in love with a Nat Geo. I think
it's not like they took Nat Geo and just left it and said, well, we have it. Like, they've been investing a lot of talent and a lot of money into Nat Geo. I mean, the talent we've seen come on some of those programs. I mean, they view it as an anchor of Disney Plus, obviously it doesn't hold anywhere near the weight of the 4 main anchors, but it's up there.
Well, and they're even including that in the expo. I mean, Nat Geo is going to have a heavy presence. You know, they're going to have booths, they're going to have panels, presentations. So, I mean, for Disney to go all out and include that within the big Ultimate Disney convention ever, I mean, that says a lot about what they want to go forward with Nat Geo.
Yeah, it'll be a lot nicer in 10 years when the $70 billion in debt is a lot less. Obviously, it stings so bad right now, and it sucks what it's done to cash flow. But the payout will be there down the road. It's just going to take a long ass time to get there because of how much they spent.
100%. And to be fair to Iger, they did sell off like Fox Sports and a couple other assets which brought that debt down from 70 probably to like 50 something billion. To be fair.
I don't think they were able to acquire sports at all. I think that was one of the things that was left out specifically within the because obviously you had to get regulatory approval in order to have a merger. I believe they had to leave those out as part of the acquisition because
they did, but I think they had to. I think they acquired them, but they had to sell them by a certain time period. Is what I understand.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go. All right. Hey, and if it helps that cash flow situation, that's great. If in fact that, I guess there you go. Well, I mean look, listen, there are definitely assets which you can capitalize on, but it's like you said, Sean, it's going to take time. Sorry, go ahead.
No, that's exactly, you're right. The point I was going to say is, it's going to take time, and you guys have brought it up, and I actually didn't even think about that, and that leads to the Fox Sports point too. Is it would not be a bad decision at all to sell off some of the lesser assets. Like, even Simpsons is a massive brand, but the future potential of Simpsons is so limited. It's been going on so long. You already have theme park infrastructure built out, not at your resort. And so selling off stuff like that, they should do it. Would be a massive bonus. And you guys are the ones that brought that up. So that'd be a great point. It would help cash flow, and it would help ease the shock value of that purchase.
You know, the other thing too that was bought in that, because I know you guys were going to Nat Geo, and I do agree with you, OG. I think it is consistent with the mission statement of Disney for sure. It's actually funny because a lot of Imagineers were inspired by Nat Geo, the magazine that used to come out right for their parks when designing them back in the 50s, 60s, and so forth. Right, they used to open National Geographic articles and so forth to get inspiration for some of those things. So it is very consistent. I do agree with you on that. But the other thing that was acquired in that Fox purchase, which was actually a pretty good thing, and one that we don't talk about here, but the 30% stake in Hulu, that's a huge deal. From what I understand, that 30% stake in Hulu right now is valued at I think $26 billion or so. I mean, it's a huge amount, and the ARPU is the envy of the world when it comes to the streaming. DTC kind of industry, right? I think a lot of people are looking at that and they want a piece of that action. And I know there's kind of a back and forth game going on with Comcast and their stake in it and so forth. But to get the 30%, that was a huge deal. And like OG has brought up here, it looks like you're right. And they had to sell that off for $9.6 billion. That helps out tremendously for sure.
Yeah. I mean, it's 9.6. I actually thought it was a little bit more than that. It puts a dent in it.
That's a good dent, though.
Yeah, a little dent. Yeah, a little dent in the 70 billion, but it brought down to 60 billion.
Because how excited did us fans get when they announced that they're going to be putting $6 billion into the park? So, an extra $10 billion and plus, when you add interest and debt on that, that $10 billion could have been 15, 20 billion. So
absolutely, 100%.
So that definitely helps. I actually didn't even know that, so that's good to know. And Dre, really quick, I don't want to do too much of a tangent, but I just had a quick question on Hulu. So I know Hulu was broken up into 1/3, right? 33%. Didn't Disney get 2 sets at the 30%? So don't they own like 60 to 65% right now?
Right. So they had a 30% stake in it, along with Comcast and Fox. Right.
Right. Okay.
Everybody
So
had
now
30%,
okay.
and then when they acquired Fox, they acquired their percentage as well. So that's kind of where that goes.
Okay. Yeah,
So as far
and
as
another thing too, another thing with Fox that I think, and obviously every time and referencing this, I'm 100% admitting that the cash flow problem they're in right now, especially with COVID, and especially Iger seeing COVID not coming, but knowing that COVID was going to be a global issue with Shanghai shutting down. Yeah, I mean, it sucks the bind they're in, but Avatar, man, like that franchise alone, I'm super bearish on that franchise. I know that it's the butt of a lot of jokes, but it can be the butt of a lot of jokes, and it'll bring in $3 billion between the next 3 sequels minimum.
Good.
Not minimum. Maybe the second one flops and the third and the fourth don't have the momentum it needs, but there's not a chance that the second one doesn't hit $1 billion, and that's just in ticket sales and box office. That's not accounting for merchandise. That's not accounting for Avatar expansion. And Dre, your point earlier about Eisner with Animal Kingdom, fantastic. Like my favorite park, so I will always be thankful for Eisner. He left it at half of a park. I mean, he didn't want to invest in Beastly Kingdom. He didn't want to build any like big thrill ride. And so it was Kilimanjaro Safaris and Dinosaur, really, in terms of like big rides.
Expedition Everest 2 was opening up as far as his watch time.
Sure, a little high.
That's where I think a lot of the CEO's weaknesses was with Animal Kingdom. It was like it was built and then it was just left. It wasn't until really Pandora made a huge impact to get people to go into that park. And actually, I agree with you, Sean. Out of the 4 Walt Disney World parks, Animal Kingdom is my favorite because it's such a unique, distinctive type of Disney park that you can't find anywhere else. And it's just a shame that it's almost like being left for stagnant. It's like, do something with it.
To Iger's credit, though, Iger's credit, he did invest.
Right. Well, and with D23, obviously we've heard Jim Cameron himself say like, hey, hold on an expansion. Like, I have 3 more movies coming out minimum, right? 3 or 4 more coming out. And so, so I know, I don't know if this is like public knowledge, but I think it's pretty assumed that Disney has an expansion plot waiting.
Yes.
And just Animal Kingdom is perfect, but I will agree that for locals that don't, or tourists that don't love just everything that has to offer, they might view it as a half-day park. A couple more huge rides, a couple more expansions in that park, just checks every box. And so, Avatar really helps it. I know they already had Pandora before the Fox acquisition, but the money and the resources that had to go into acquiring that, and now they get to reap the benefits. So that's another good benefit for that.
100%. Now, our last and final segment of the day, since we got Ranking the Mouse on, we're going to start ranking some stuff. I want to rank favorite Disney/entertainment YouTubers. Okay, so we're leaving out all of our YouTube channels because we're basically recusing ourselves. There's a conflict of interest there, so obviously we're not going to include ourselves in these rankings. But we're going to do our top 5 Disney/entertainment YouTubers. I'm going to do it Ranking the Mouse style. I'm going to go around and do like our number 5, go around to our number 4, just like you guys do on your show, you and Karik. We'll start with number 5. I'll start with you, Sean. What's your number 5 top Disney/entertainment YouTuber?
Perfect. Yeah, I left off massive YouTubers like Tim Tracker and them just because I feel like everyone already knows about them. And and then I also left off like my friends. So like you guys and like, Theme Park Wizard, King Caw, Mouse Vibes, anybody that I view as like a friend, I left off just out of, those are amazing channels, but I don't want to be like that biased, like, friend. So my number 5 is Fast Pass Facts. They're a pretty big YouTube channel, but I don't think they're as known in the theme park community. They're more so into like haunt stuff, and they're really big into animatronics, and I'm a massive animatronics fan. So I love their channel. They don't strictly do Disney anymore, so they're more into the entertainment, but they do a lot of Disney videos, and they started off Disney only. So Fast Pass Facts is my number 5.
Perfect. George, your number 5 Disney/entertainment YouTuber.
My number 5 is going to be our friend Jack from DSNY Newscast.
Ooh, DSNY.
I always, and this is kind of hard, because I don't necessarily pin one of these YouTubers that I chose over the other. I'm just more so like nitpicking, really, honestly, because these are, So I mean, Jack, of how how he came about with DSNY Newscast and how he actually threw a pitch to Disney before, this even was, made, and he has his own app, and just his general knowledge of how he is actually like a newscast. I love the storyline. And I mean, he like literally writes a script from beginning to end. And I mean, he goes through it tirelessly. And I mean, he really puts a lot of effort into it. And I just love his energy, and it's just one of those things that it grabs my attention. And I feel that that's what it does for a lot of viewers.
No, Jack is fantastic. He's definitely a friend of the channel. I've had many discussions with him via DM and stuff, and he is a really nice guy. He does phenomenal content. When he breaks down stuff, he'll get into like the Google like satellite view and like break down the construction and like the various like buildings that might go or whatever for various. He really gets into the detail. I really love DSNY. He's phenomenal.
Great production value. Great production.
Absolutely.
Incredible. Absolutely incredible. Dre, what say you, sir? Number 5, Disney / entertainment YouTubers.
Disney / entertainment YouTubers got to go with FreshBaked. Gotta go with FreshBaked. I know. And that might be surprising to our viewers or maybe the people who know me. But look, listen, I have my disagreements with FreshBaked and Dave and some of the commentary he provides. Oh yeah, sure. But I think we have disagreements generally across the board. But what I like is his grind. I love his grind. I love how he's kind of always on it. He's always putting out news-related content when it comes to either being in the parks himself or in the FreshBaked studio or whatever. I think it's I really do appreciate kind of what he puts into it. I mean, he just came out with like an hour-long kind of like, hey, how do you hit the parks without a mobile phone kind of thing, and it was kind of really cool insight, and it took a lot of work. I mean, that's an hour-long video. He probably has 4 hours of footage to cut down, all that kind of stuff. But he was able to do it and provide some really interesting commentary insight. And he has kind of kept consistent with that, and I really do appreciate that. And yeah, sure, maybe he gets some stuff wrong. Maybe his insight isn't 100% on point. But he was really one of the big inspirations for me, a bit better for worse, for getting into the game at all. So definitely got to go with FreshBaked.
Yeah, I don't watch vlogs really, only because I just would rather experience that in the parks, and I just don't have time for that. But Dave's like construction updates and like looks around the park, just must watch stuff in my opinion.
Absolutely,
100%, 100%, man, 100%. Yeah, Dave is a beast, man. He does a lot of great content. Like I'm with you, Sean. I don't watch a lot of vlogs because I live close enough where I can go experience that stuff myself.
Right.
But Dave is one of the few. And he's on my list. But my number 5, though, is the John Campea show. I am very much a film fan. I kind of started this whole Disney fandom like through the film side of things. I wanted to be an animator when I was a young kid. I kind of grew up during that Disney animation renaissance. So that film thing is always near and dear to my heart. Campea dives into all that stuff. And not just Disney, but he guys all film, like Warner Brothers, Universal, everything. I love what Campea does. I love his gives no fucks kind of attitude. He definitely just kind of says it like it is, like he doesn't care. And I really like his approach to it. He obviously has a lot of knowledge in that industry, in that community. So John Campea, number 5 for me. Like you said, Dre, with FreshBaked. I don't always agree with Campea. More often not than I mean, I disagree with him on quite a bit, but I love the insight and I love the passion. And that's one of the things with me. Like I love anyone that has like passion for something. I love that, man. I absolutely love that. That's kind of the key. So my number 5 is the John Campea show. So Sean, number 4, what's your 4th Disney entertainment YouTuber?
Yeah, number 4. Yeah, really quick, I want to agree with you, OG. I'm glad you said that because I love that we can, if you can disagree with a channel or a person, especially like a majority of the time, but still love what they do and like continually watch them. Like that's that's what we need right now in the world. So that's great. And I am glad you shouted out John Campea too, because I wanted to shout out some like movie YouTubers, or film YouTubers, because I love that side of YouTube. but it's also a Disney podcast. So I was gonna focus on that. So I'm glad you gave a shout out to Campea. Shout out to like Chris Stuckman, Sean Chandler, Austin Burke, some great film critics there. So shout out to all them. But my number 4 is Bright Sun Films. I said I wanted to stay away from the massive channels, and Bright Sun Films is pretty damn massive. I think they have like 1 million+ subs. So I kind of broke my own rule there, but I feel like they're not as popular in the Disney community. And Bright Sun Films does some amazing, like abandoned, like canceled, like stuff like that, like massive projects that have just been let go. And so
Absolutely.
And I think they're good friends with Defunctland too. I've done a couple of videos with them. So I might have broken my rule about too big of a YouTuber, but if you are a Disney YouTuber or Disney fan, and don't watch Bright Sun Films, definitely check him out. I think his name's Jake, and just incredible, like high quality, like just fantastic content on like abandoned projects, canceled projects, stuff like that. So definitely check him out.
Very cool. Very cool. First time hearing about it. I will definitely check that out. George, your number 4.
My number 4 is actually FreshBaked. That's my number 4.
George getting West Coast content out here. Okay.
The thing that I love what Dave has done, with which a lot of other YouTubers really don't do, is, and I don't mean this with all disrespect, but when you want to show me something, don't leave the camera on your face 24/7 when you're showing me something. Show me what I want to see. And I love how Dave narrates, but it's through the lens, so you get to see what he is seeing. And I love that about that aspect of FreshBaked. And that even goes into his construction videos and everything. And then, of course, he has his home vlogs where he's talking about it in front of his desk and what have you. And it's just a good family based oriented type of channel, which I know right now that's what the trackers do, but I don't know, it's a different ball game between the trackers and FreshBaked, and I think it's more to the level that appeases to everybody.
Yeah, and they're different genres too. I mean, Tim Tracker doesn't really do news breaks like that, and Tim Tracker I think is definitely geared towards more like that casual fan, and that's I don't mean that as a con at all. Like shout out to Tim Trackers, like putting Disney on the map in terms of that, but they're definitely more towards like a casual Disney fan, whereas FreshBaked is more for like the, diehard, like I want construction updates, stuff like that. So
100%. Yeah. Tracker's more like how to navigate the Magic Kingdom with a baby. Right.
Yeah. It's more of a lifestyle thing.
Right. Yeah, and FreshBaked is like, like they're building something over at the park. What is this giant hole in Toontown mean?
The mailbox is a different color. What does it mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Totally different. Yeah, totally different markets. But Dre, you're number 4.
4 is going to be controversial, for sure.
Here we go.
There we go. I'm going to go.
Cancel Dre. Cancel him.
Go balls to the walls there.
There we go.
Look, I think number 4 is going to have to be Walt Disney World News Today. I know Tom definitely has his issues. I get it. I understand, especially just Twitter. Not huge fans of him for sure. But I find myself watching their content a lot. And one of the reasons is because, they have the kind of, I don't know, nightly news segment or whatever, where they go over the parks. And it's been instrumental in what I do, on this channel, just to kind of stay up to date with kind of what everything that's going on on both coasts. A lot of times it's extremely difficult for me to do that just because of limited time. And Walt Disney World News Today provides a nice shortcut into just kind of comprehensive coverage on both coasts. So, for that reason, whenever they have one of those news segments, I find myself always watching, and I had to include them as a result. I understand. I get it. Corliss is not everybody's cup of tea. Yeah. And I certainly have my problems with them as well. But, they do decent work. So,
if you can
gotta be number 4.
If you can separate the art from the artist, like, whatever, like play what like WDWNT, like I'm not even trying to hate on Corliss. I have my personal qualms with him, but he's been in the game for so long that he deserves respect. But WDWNT, the entity, I mean, they have so many great writers and employees.
Yeah.
And so I'll give you that. Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah, no, they do some great work over there. And I know a lot of people write off like their scoops and stuff because like it's Tom, and but they do get it right a lot. Like they get it wrong too, and we get it wrong here on OG 55 as well. Everyone gets it wrong eventually. Everyone's got to eat crow eventually.
But that also is what makes a good conversation. Whether you agree with it or you don't, or if you're right or if you're wrong, it's a good conversation piece.
100%.
I'll agree. I just think they need to put opinion more in their articles. Like say this is an opinion because they take the journalistic route, but if they just took the opinion route more, I think it would be get a lot less backlash.
I think so. Yeah, I think so.
Well said, Sean. I agree with you. Like if you're gonna make it known, this is my opinion. I'm going into this with this is my viewpoint, and I think they'd get a lot less heat. As opposed to like this is like a fact, right? Like this is like. I agree with you on that.
They absolutely hit bomb. Like they hit home runs for sure. Like they reported on stuff before anybody else has, absolutely multiple times. But they've also, when you're swinging at 100-mile-per-hour fastballs, you're gonna have some bad strikeouts, and they've had a couple, whiffs, which wouldn't be a big deal, but just the way they approach the report can sometimes rub people the wrong way. So
sure,
100%. My number 4 is Adventures in Design. Our boy Bricky. I love this guy, man. I love this guy. He's got a background in architecture. Really nice guy. I love the way he approaches like this Disney parks kind of, I don't know what you want to call it. Like this Disney parks kind of vlogging content. The way he does it is it's in a real creative way, a really smart way. And I really appreciate the way he kind of goes into that, right? And I watched a lot of his vlogs, which I'm not really. I gotta be honest. I'm with Sean. I'm at the parks all the time. I don't need to watch someone else eating a churro that I can experience myself in 2 days. I got a key. I can go at the parks. I can go and do all that stuff myself. But Bricky brings a whole nother perspective to it, where it's like, okay, that's unique. I never thought of it that way, right? And he comes from that architecture kind of standpoint where it's like, wow, man, I never considered that. That's pretty cool. So I love Bricky. I love what he does over there at Adventures in Design. I like the fact that he brings it like a different perspective to the table. Really a superstar in this community. Really gets my creative juices and kind of everything. I don't know. I just really like the way he approaches things. It really gets me thinking, and I think he's a fantastic content creator. And he's my number 4. He's phenomenal.
I love how unique he is. I love how unique and just kind of like he just goes off on. Right. It's like you said, approaches it in a different way, right? Comes at it from a different angle and will even, cover stuff in a different way, right? Like his coverage of the Galactic Star Cruiser was, it was bizarre. It was different, but it was like, yeah, okay, he's doing something incredibly different and really showcasing that kind of experience. Honestly, in a way that it was almost meant to be experienced on. It was fascinating stuff. Really, really cool.
Yeah.
No, he does. He takes it.
Sorry, OG.
Oh, no, go ahead, Sean. I'm sorry.
I was going to say my favorite part about Adventures in Design is, and this is part of what I try to do on my channels, I just love the community that he's built. I love the just positivity that and I'm not saying like you have to be positive towards Disney, but be positive as a human being. Like be critical of whatever product, but be positive as a person. Like, avoid just the drama and all that. And he builds such a great community. And like, if you're ever at the parks and like, if you close down the parks and hit up Jolly Holiday, a bunch of his followers are there like every single night, like Dapper Dan on Twitter and a bunch of other guys, like, and they're all part of like Bricky's, I think it's his Patreon, like club, I think like 1313 or something like that. But anyways.
Yeah. 1313.
Yeah. But regardless, like he just built a great community of like just happy, like positive, friendly people that aren't going to be too good for you. Like he'll, talk to you, whatever. So that's my favorite part about him.
No, he's fantastic. He's absolutely fantastic. Really brilliant analysis, really interesting takes, really interesting viewpoint, creative guy. He's funny as hell, man. Some of his stuff is really, really funny. So really good guy. But that's my number 4. So now we're going to dive into number 3. And Sean, what is your number 3 favorite Disney/entertainment YouTuber, sir?
Top 3 time. This is where it starts to get juicy. Yeah, my number 3 is Midway to Main Street, formerly known as Rob Plays. Mostly Walt Disney World, but just fantastic, and kind of what OG said about Bricky Adventures in Design. Just different takes. Like, he doesn't do vlogs, he doesn't do construction updates, he doesn't do any of that. He does just rant. He'll take a topic, like a relevant topic, but unique enough to where you're like, wait, what? And he'll make a full-length video, like, why are there no mosquitoes at Disneyland? Like, where does it crash? Stuff like that, where you're like, okay, I don't really care, but I also like really care at the same time. And he'll just do like a deep dive into that. So some of my favorite content, and Rob's just a great like dude, like just really cool dude. And
awesome.
Yeah, I if you guys are theme park, like specifically theme park fans, Rob Plays as a fantastic, and mostly Walt Disney World coverage, but just fantastic stuff. So Midway to Main Street.
Awesome. And by the way, I will be linking all of the channels that we mentioned today in the description. So check everybody out that we mentioned today. George, number 3.
My number 3 is Disney Dan. Now, the reason why I chose him, because I just love how he can make himself laugh. Like anything that he talks about, he just laughs at his own jokes. And he really gets into it. And I just love his sarcasm, his wit, like whatever he's talking about. And a lot of his topics that he talks about is sort of not necessarily of how Rob Plays does it, but he picks specific subject matter that you don't really think about. And it's like, do I really want to hear about this? And then, so it's sort of kind of like how Rob Plays go. It's like, I never really thought that I would care, but I do, So,
right.
Yeah. So, but I just love how his wit, his sarcasm, his laugh is contagious, and I just love how he presents himself for his channel.
Awesome.
So Disney Dan is my number 3.
Disney Dan. Shout out to Disney Dan. And Mr. Frosty Squeeze, your number 3.
I'm gonna have to go with Defunctland.
Oh,
yeah. I mean, it's a look. Ranking. I didn't quite use the the philosophy of just limiting it to non-large, smaller channels, right? I maybe I should have done that, but look, Defunctland, I got to give it up to him. I mean, he is just fantastic in the space, and specifically, I mean, when he covers anything related to Disney parks or even Universal or whatever, his documentaries, his coverage of it is just mind blowing. It's just insane. How much quality he imbues with every single project. And I mean, if you follow this guy's Twitter account while he's working on stuff, it's pretty wild what he goes through. I know his Fast Pass video, which is everybody should absolutely check out for sure. I know there were some sleepless nights there for sure, going over key parts of that video. But he really does. He really does break this stuff down. I mean, honestly, you could put any of his documentaries, his long form ones, on Netflix or on Disney Plus or whatever. I mean, they would stand comfortably alongside highly produced content coming out of major studios and so forth. I mean, it really is done that well. And I mean, some people have actually said, like, when Disney puts out something that's maybe not necessarily lives up to the quality of Defunctland and others, they'll call it out. They'll say, hey, there's better content about this on YouTube, that kind of thing. He's just set the bar that kind of high. And, one of the things that keeps him, kind of at number 3, even though I do think his content is insane, is, he doesn't necessarily come out with content on a regular basis, but that's kind of key to his quality and key to his philosophy. And I think that should be recognized. But that's kind of where I've kind of set him, and it's phenomenal stuff, really, an inspiration to us all.
Yeah, I think Defunctland is one of the very, very few, like 2 or 3 channels it's really broken out into mainstream. Like,
yes.
If you watch YouTube, you've probably heard of Defunctland outside of the Disney community. I'd say the only other ones are really like Adam the Woo and Tim Tracker, in terms of like, if you watch theme park content, go on him. So, and to your point, Dre, about Defunctland, I would say there's only maybe like 1 or 2 months per year where he puts out a video that I'm love, because he only puts out a video every like 3 weeks or a month. And some of them are based on like, niche TV shows that I didn't watch growing up, where I'll still watch his video, but every now and then, dude, when he puts out one of those theme park videos, I mean, it is instant must watch, like the Mr. Beast of like Disney YouTube, like just instant must watch. So he definitely
instant must watch.
100%. Yeah, Defunctland does a lot of great stuff, man, and he dives into like a lot of stuff. Like I think he even did a whole thing about Dumbo Circus, George. Dumbo Circus.
I did see that. I did see that one. I love that one, and believe it or not, also the Nickelodeon Studios in Universal Orlando. I loved watching that one, of just how the genesis of how it started to its fall. It was just so fascinating, but yet so depressing.
It is.
If anyone here doesn't watch him, I mean, I would be shocked if you haven't, but you need to go watch that Fast Pass video. It is legitimately one of my favorite Disney videos to ever come out, and I watch hours and hours and hours of Disney YouTube on a daily basis.
Yes,
like hours. Like I'm all day. I'm listening to either a sports podcast or a Disney YouTube channel, and that's to this day the best, like one of the best videos ever created. So.
Oh, absolutely. And he collaborated with like, Len Testa, Jim Hill, and, all these other kind of historians and stuff like that. And all these kind of, mathematical algorithms and stuff, and, analysts and this kind of stuff. I think he even interviewed the original guy who created the kind of system and so forth. I mean, it's so good. Like just really legitimately one of the best videos out on YouTube in the theme park space by far, not even no contest.
Yep.
100%. My number 3 is FreshBaked. Number 3 is FreshBaked. I love FreshBaked. I'm not really big on the like, it's weird because I'm like a Disney Parks YouTuber, but I'm not really big on like Disney Parks YouTube. It's really odd, but like FreshBaked is one of the parks channels that I really, really do enjoy. I love the podcast that he does with Ron Berner. Again, it's like one of those things where it's like I don't agree with them on a lot, but I love their insight. I love their passion for what they do. I love the discussion that they bring. I used to love old school FreshBaked when he would like go around with Ian and just stand on the Mickey and Friends parking structure and do like the knothole game.
Last time I was there at the parks.
Oh, there you go.
How's he doing?
Good. Yeah, I don't think he didn't go to the parks for like a good 2 years because of COVID.
Oh wow.
He was out. He was out.
Right. And I don't, even fully blame him, but it was great. We watched Disneyland Forever together, hung out, so it was a good time.
Nice, man. Ian's awesome, dude. Ian's awesome, and that FreshBaked whole family is really cool, and I really just like the energy they bring, and I love Dave. I know he's wrong about Autopia, but whatever. Whatever. No one's perfect. Everyone's got a vice. That's my number 3. So, awesome. Sean, number 2. What is your number 2?
I didn't put FreshBaked in my top 5 only because I didn't want to focus on like the massive channels, and I was also pretty sure that all 3 of you would have them in your top 5, so I could still talk about them. But I just want to give a shout out to Dave's construction updates. I mean, seriously insane stuff. The Galactic Star Cruiser, Galaxy's Edge content they did for years. Just all great stuff. And then also shout out to Sarah Romey, who used to be part of FreshBaked. She really helped build that channel back in the day. She's still doing great stuff. So if you guys follow her on Twitter or Instagram, Lady Romey, she's still doing amazing stuff. And she really helped build that channel. So big shout out to her as well.
Does she have a YouTube channel, Sean?
She does, but she does have a YouTube channel, but I'm not 100% sure what it is. I think she said she doesn't post to it much, but she's on Twitter and Instagram a lot, Lady Romey.
Okay, I'll link that down below then. At least the Twitter, I'll link down below.
Cool.
Yeah, for sure. So FreshBaked's been in the Disneyland, like they're the Tim Tracker and the Adam the Woo of West Coast. I know there was Justin Starr and Adam the Woo that like started it, but FreshBaked is the one that like put it on the map in longevity and all that. So for sure, shout out to them. My number 2 is going to be Theme Park Stop. This is Alicia Stella of Theme Park Stop, and she has a couple other people to help her out too. In terms of like new stuff, in terms of patents, like ride patents, #1 in the game, and it's not close. Like Alicia will find any patent there is. She will break it down every single step of the way on YouTube. Just incredible stuff. Amazing Universal Epic Universe coverage. Literally, if there's something Universal, like it was probably broken by Alicia Stell at some point. The Fast and the Furious poster at Universal Hollywood, a bunch of stuff at Epic Universe, a bunch of Super Nintendo stuff. The Minions ride coming to Universal Studios Florida. Like she broke or helped break all of this. She also does great Disney content too. She has a podcast. So yeah, just in terms of like patents, like if you're a nerdy person, you like ride patents and like, I feel like this is right up Dre's alley. Like you like just looking at the nerdy aspect of like rides. Theme Park Stop knocks it out of the park. So, and especially if you're interested in Epic Universe, like most of my hype is built from her channel. So
absolutely,
shout out to Theme Park Stop, definitely.
100%. Yeah, Alicia is awesome. Alicia is absolutely awesome. George, you're number 2.
My number 2 is the Diz Unplugged.
Oh, Pete Werner.
There he goes.
I'm a huge fan of Mr. Pete Werner. I love how he doesn't mince his words. He tells it like it is, whether you agree with him or not, whether you like it or not. And his sarcasm, like he could be dead serious, but I'll just sit and just start busting out laughing because just his expressions and how he puts things, it's very entertaining. And I just love the combination that, you know, he co-owns and co-operates a travel company, but yet he meshes it into a YouTube channel, a podcast, you know, going out, you know, in the parks, on the cruise ships. I love what they do as far as like with contributions to charities for Give Kids the World. You know, they're very big on that, and I highly respect them for it. I love the whole entire crew. I'm actually friends with several of them, and it's very cool to see what they do, and especially of how much money that they accomplished for Give Kids the World. So definitely a shout out to them and
Fantastic.
for all that they do for the whole entire Diz Unplugged team.
Defunctland too. We're in the name of shouting out people for, you know, Give Kids the World and charity. Defunctland and Diz Unplugged really kill it. And shout out Diz Unplugged's cruise line coverage too, man, because they're really killing the hotel, Disney hotels, and cruise lines and Universal too. They're killing all three of those.
Yeah, they have channels like DCL Fan, stuff like that, just really killing it on that front as well. And honestly, when it comes to cruise line, I had to go over Disney Unplugged to see what they think. I mean, it's much watched content for, so great.
Yeah, and Pete deserves a shout out for one of the OG like they've been in the game for so, like they're like the OG with like Laughing Place in them. Like they were starting these boards like decades ago, before Diz, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, it was even a thing, period. So Pete is like one of the 5 like OG like Disney, you know, fans from the start. So he definitely deserves a big shout out.
Absolutely.
Awesome,
he was a trendsetter.
And it's like, as I said, when he doesn't mince his words, I mean, I really do mean that. Like you have a lot of these other YouTubers, you know, that'll go on camera and they'd say just like the peanut butter and jelly slushy or smoothie that Dre and I had at Avengers Campus. Like everybody else would say, it's not that bad. It's okay, but it's okay. No, Pete would literally taste it and probably say, this tastes like melted dog shit in a cup.
Melted dog shit.
Melted dog shit tastes like, serve me up some melted dog shit with the
There we go. There we go.
Listen, the Enchante review that recently came out in DCL Fan, must watch, and that gives you a good insight into what George is talking about. Enchante, DCL Fan, check it out. Fantastic. Go ahead, OG.
Listening to Pete and a couple others on that channel, like Craig and stuff, like I absolutely disagree with them so hard sometimes, but I respect it because they just go so hard on their opinion. They don't care if someone disagrees, and they deserve that opinion because they've been in the community so long. So yeah, I know you like OG, you say a lot like I disagree with them. I disagree with a lot. I mean, a lot of what Diz Unplugged says. But to George's point, they say it with such gusto and such like credibility that even if you disagree, you have to listen and like take it in, because that, you know, just the way they say it and the way they present it and the lack of like fear of pushback from Disney or Universal or whoever, like they just don't care. So
it's wild.
It's fantastic. It's absolutely fantastic. Pete is like so New Jersey, which I love. He's the kind of guy like in New York City. Yeah, he's crossing the street. He's pounding on a taxi hood. Can't you see him walking here, man? I love it. I
The
fucking
video when
love
he
it.
yelled at the stormtroopers while he was filming for walking into his video.
Yes, I remember
Come
that.
on, oh my God.
He's
I was
so
like,
good.
"Hey, come on," but also just loving it at the same time.
He's fantastic. He's absolutely fantastic. I agree with you, fellas. Like, I don't agree with them all.
And one other thing, if there is something that you would really also love to see Pete talk about, it's a video that Craig and Rhino had recorded when they were at DCA. And I think it was a couple years ago, and they were in Cars Land, and it was the street corn. If you can find that video and really get Pete's actual response, because he tastes it right there, golden.
Perfect. Look for that. Look for that. My number 2 is Den of Nerds. I love Den of Nerds. Josh from Den of Nerds does a fantastic job. He has his upload channel. He has a live show channel, and he doesn't really dive into Disney parks, but he does a lot of Marvel, Star Wars, kind of nerd culture stuff. The dude, I'm telling you, the live shows that this guy does, they're hilarious. Absolutely hilarious. He puts on a fantastic show. And if you really want to dive in, like deep dive into the MCU or Lucasfilm or any of that stuff, Den of Nerds is your place to go. I absolutely love the content they create. One of my favorite content creators ever. And he's fair. He's really, really fair. He's not going to, like George said with Diz Unplugged. He doesn't mince his words. He's very much like, oh, look, you know what? No, they fucked up. He'll be honest. He'll tell you what's up. So I love Den of Nerds. So one of my favorite YouTube channels. I watch him almost every morning. It's Monday through Friday, his live shows, but I try to check it out as much as I can. He does really, really great work.
That's fantastic.
Love it.
That's fantastic. Should I go with my number 2 now?
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, I know. Well, hey, we gotta stay on schedule. I didn't want to pull away from you. I think this one has really kind of exploded in terms of kind of popularity, just overall kind of respect that I have, right? And man, this guy's pretty spot on with his analysis and everything, and it really kind of has earned my eye, let's say, my viewership on a regular basis. And I try to include people on this list, by the way, who, like, whenever they come out with a video, must watch, that kind of thing. And so, but recently, it's got to be Valiant Renegade, especially with Walt Disney World Pro. I mean, his whole thing is, kind of looking at the entertainment industry through the kind of business lens, right? Through the kind of financial lens. And I think he does some really, really great stuff. I mean, his analysis has really been kind of profound. And sometimes it's a little bit, let's say, opinionated to get a response, right? It's a little spicy, but I think overall, I think a lot of the analysis has been really, really good, and especially when he has WDW Pro on. Obviously, I think a lot of people watching this channel kind of know who are familiar with that, as we had him on the show, and you kind of understand his cadence and philosophy and so forth. Just that dynamic duo right there is really, really strong right now. And like I said, whenever it hits the feed, it's a must watch for me. And
Awesome.
and pretty good predictive quality as well. So I got to give him a shout out.
No, Valiant Renegade's really, really awesome. I like his YouTube channel. I like his analysis. He doesn't focus too much on the parks. I know we have a lot of park people watching, but he's much more involved in the film side, the corporate side.
Yeah.
But the analysis he brings with Pro, phenomenal. And that's why we brought Pro on, because we fell in love with the content, that's why, it was pretty awesome. So yeah, great number 2, Dre. Great number 2.
Love it. Should we move on to our number ones?
Yeah, let's do number.
Sean, go ahead.
Number one.
That's right. Go ahead, Sean.
Yeah, my number 1 is just probably the person I respect most, or the channel that I respect most in the industry. That is Inside the Magic. I just think all their stuff is super reputable. No, I'm just kidding.
I was about to say, I was like, You're going someplace I can't follow. To quote Padme, right?
I'm just kidding. No hate to anyone over there, but not in my top 5 quite yet. They're somewhere in the 6 to 50 range up there.
Okay. Gotcha.
No, my number one is I don't know if a lot of people have heard of this channel, but I'm a massive theme park fan. Like I didn't grow up as a Disney kid. I didn't watch Disney movies. I didn't even go to Disney. I fell in love with Disney because of the theme parks. So that's how I come out of it. And my number one is a channel called ReviewTyme, ReviewTyme, and it's run.
Absolutely.
You know them, Trey? Good. I'm glad. They're ran by 2 guys named Luke and Dom. They're Australians.
Yes.
And they were pretty small. They were like under 10K subs up until about COVID hit, and now they blew up, and I think they're pushing close to 100K.
Wow.
They are just insane. Like if you are a theme park fan, like they do touch on like, the corporate side a bit, but if you're just a fan of theme parks, like period, like this is probably the best channel on all of YouTube. They started out as like reviewing theme parks, like giving actual scores to different theme parks, whether that be Disney parks, Universal parks. They'll even do Knott's Berry Farm. They'll do, parks like Universal, the International Universal parks, like basically any big theme park they will give a review for. But they also then dive deep into Disney stuff. They dive deep into like Genie Plus. They dive deep into Chapek, all that stuff. So just the quality of video is so high for just
so
2
good.
guys that just started out recently. So I'm pretty shocked they haven't blown up yet. I mean they have blown up, but bigger. Just in terms of theme park fandom, this is the number 1 channel on all of YouTube, and I feel like they're pretty underrated in terms of Disney community. So,
and look, full disclosure for me, just to tell you how good their content is and how on the ball they are, and how must watch they are. We just recently did, our Disney Dubai video, right? And we did some stuff for the Chinese parks as well. A lot of that research came from their videos specifically.
Yeah.
I mean, that's where I kind of started from. I took a deeper dive from there, but that was kind of the foundation for my exploration into these things. And honestly, I mean, what they've done is just phenomenal on their channel. Like you said, they started out kind of small, but I mean, and they cover parks around the world, not just
Right.
the Disney parks
Absolutely.
domestically, but they cover them all. And so a lot of people want insight into Disneyland Paris or Shanghai Disneyland or Tokyo Disneyland, right? And there's no better channel to take a deeper dive into those things than ReviewTyme. Honestly, if you were planning a trip, maybe start out with a ReviewTyme video. That's how good they are.
Global theme parks, I don't see how they're not the number 1 channel in terms of like global theme park coverage. They have to be number 1, if not top 2 or 3.
Yep.
Perfect.
100%.
Trey, you're number 1.
I believe.
You gonna throw it to George?
Yeah, George.
Oh,
You're number
Okay.
1. I didn't want to bypass you. Didn't want to skip over you.
no, I was going to go to George, but yeah, George can go first. No problem.
Okay. Sorry. Go ahead.
Okay. Do you want to go, Dre?
Well, no. We were going clockwise there. I didn't know if we wanted to stick to the schedule there. I can go if
Yeah, no, you go ahead.
Okay. Number 1, you know what? This kid is insane. He's so good. You heard me talking about him on this channel before. Such an inspiration to everything that I do, to everything that I I try to bring to our show and stuff like that. The incredible insight, incredible knowledge base, and just hustles like I've never seen anybody do before. It's got to be Braden at Mickey Views. Mickey Views is just it really is kind of incredible stuff. Yes, I think I think he him and DSNY kind of do a lot of the same thing, but I think Mickey Views kind of takes it maybe a step further in his own way by providing just incredible insight. He'll do quarterly earnings call coverage, which is really, really strong. He'll be in the parks, vlogging occasionally. Massive investments in terms of studio equipment and stuff like that to produce what he produces. He's flying a drone there for the with the bright lines and stuff like that. I mean, just insane stuff. And I got to give it up to him. His new Address Unknown channel, really, really strong content there as well. Apparently he spent like thousands of dollars on that video trying to do it, and just the amazing amount of hustle, the amazing amount of work that what he brings to the community in terms of content is, to me, is unmatched. And like I said, I tried to kind of assemble this list on, hey, if it hits the sub feed, is it a click or is it not a click? Or, instant kind of thing. And Mickey Views is like number one. Whenever he comes over with a video, I'm there, I'm watching. And yes, you could say that maybe others are have better production value, or maybe produce better documentaries, or maybe produce better insight or whatever. But he is kind of the complete package there, and is really very, very strong in each one of those categories. And yeah, I got to give it up to him. The kid is really, really good. He's really, really good, and I wish him all the success in the world.
100%. Down below, Mr. Family Man, you're number one.
So my number one is, and I'm with you, OG. I'm not too big on a bunch of vloggers in the parks, because it's like, if I want to experience it, I just go do it myself, and I do it a lot. So it's like, it's nothing new for me. However, despite that this YouTuber is in the parks a lot, and it's usually his main base of his channel, but I am one that I don't really necessarily have to go by the content of the video, but the personality of the being. And this person just gives such a strong, good vibe, kinetic energy that he's just very unique and different. And I know I'm kind of babbling along, but it's like the anticipation. But my number one is
oh, I know who he's talking about.
I think Dre knows who I'm talking about. My number one is paging Mr. Morrow.
There it is.
Gotta be paging Mr. Morrow. I mean, look, he's great. Okay. He's fantastic. He's great chemistry on screen. Great chemistry. Out of all the vloggers, some of the best for sure. Go ahead, George.
Yeah, he's just so happy. I never met someone that could literally wake up with a smile on their face and literally go to bed with a smile on their face. I mean, I would love to apply that to my own life. It's like he just gives such good vibes, good energy. I love what he brings to his channel, to his videos. And I'm actually going to a D23 after party on September 9th that he is hosting. So I'll actually finally get to meet him in person. So I'm looking forward to that. But shout out to paging Mr. Morrow. Love the content, love the channel, love him. He's my number one.
He's a great example. Him and like Adventures by Design are just great examples of like, just even if you're critical of the product, just bring happiness as you as a person. Because like you can be critical about products, but let's just be happy in a community and life. So yeah, great example of that.
100%. Like you mentioned, he's always happy though, George. What if like there comes like a bloopers video where it's like, what the fuck, man? I'm going live here. What the fuck?
Then you know what? I'd love him even more.
Comments, bro, yelling about your swearing. She's gonna be hot in the comments.
Yep, she's gonna be hot. Gonna be hot.
Gonna be hot. No, but yeah, absolutely. Paging Mr. Morrow. Fantastic content, absolutely fantastic. I'm gonna link every channel we mentioned today will be in the description, so definitely check them out.
During the kind of shutdown kind of phase, opening phase, he was very comforting, right? And his specifically though, when he stayed at some of these big resorts, when DVCers had to give their points away. And they gave it to some of these vloggers. What he brought to it with his kind of sunrise videos, I mean, just phenomenal stuff. Really, really cool. Like, wow, it's like you remember the magic. It's like you remember why you're doing this whole thing. Really, not a cynical bone in his body. It just comes at it from a positive standpoint. I love the guy. He's great.
Really, really awesome.
Bring us home.
All right, here we go. My number one is Kristian Harloff.
Oh, there you go. Kristian Harloff.
Kristian Harloff, I've mentioned it many times on my channel. He was really the inspiration for my channel. I loved watching him on, AMC Jedi Council, later to be known as Collider Jedi Council. I love the work that he does. He's more on the film side of things. He's really into Star Wars, Marvel, and just film reviews and things like that. I've always looked up to this man. I think that he does a phenomenal job at what he does. he's been a big inspiration for me personally, and I really love the content that he does, and he brings a lot of fun. Like the thing about Harloff, and I'll link it down below, like I said with everybody, but like Harloff brings a fun factor to his content, and he'll kind of shoot the shit with a lot of his friends on his videos and talk movies, and it feels like a conversation. It's not scripted. It's very much just like a bunch of dudes or guys and gals talking about the thing that they love. And that's what I love. And that's what I've kind of tried to emulate here at OG55 is that same kind of energy. I don't want to have a bunch of like scripted stuff. I want to just have a bunch of fans talking about what they love. And Harloff does that in the film community, right? And he was really a huge, massive inspiration to his channel. Harloff, by chance you ever watch this, thank you. You probably will never watch this, but thank you. But that is my number one, Kristian Harloff. So check him out.
Throw a couple just honorable mentions, just so we didn't talk about, just so they can
Absolutely.
get talked about. Obviously, the small channels, like all of our friends, go follow them too. But just some of the bigger like Disney channels, you should for sure follow. Yesterworld, a lot of similar content to Defunctland, but they take a different angle at it. Just really great. A lot of good Eisner coverage, to be honest. If you're an Eisner fan, definitely check out Yesterworld. Theme park history. Just straight Disney Universal, not Six Flags, like just straight like history of the theme parks. Expedition Theme Park, they'll take like one ride and dive deep into the history of that. And then obviously Offhand Disney. I'm sure most of you follow him already, but some pretty solid Disneyland coverage in Disney World as well. So if you don't follow anything, go subscribe.
Hey, I'll throw out some honorable mentions as well. What is it? Adam the Woo. I understand he's not specifically Disney, but he's a great content creator just in general. Justin Scard. Awesome stuff. You know, I know he's gotten he's going through some personal issues right now, but if you could support him in any way, that'd be great. Really great. I mean, really kind of founded the YouTube genre almost of Disney coverage.
Especially
I mean, really, he's one of the pioneers for sure. West Coast, like you said, absolutely, 100% agree. As far as like the kind of movie kind of theater aspect, Midnight's Edge. Really like Midnight's Edge's coverage. Understand they're a little bit more contrarian. They can be a little bit spicy, but I think their analysis is actually pretty good as well. So I mean, gotta shout out those guys. Anybody I didn't include on the list, by the way, like I said, Yesterworld and a few others. It's not because they're not great. It's because it's just you got to pick between them. And
there's 20 or 30 out there. You can only do 5. But people get so mad at my rankings, like, oh, you had so and so last. That doesn't mean they're bad. When you're ranking, you have to, pick and choose. But there's 30, 40, 50 great channels out there that all deserve.
Exactly.
And I have a few honorable mentions that actually I wanted to add to the list, but as Dre said, there's just so many, and
can't do it.
Got to give it to Five Fires, Mondo, Danny.
5 Fires.
Come on,
Mondo.
Can't forget 5 Fires.
Their speculation Sundays are awesome, by the way. I love their speculation Sundays.
Got to do the air horn for them. There you go, 5 Fires.
Yeah, exactly.
Ordinary Adventures. I love their content. I love their take on when they go again on the Disney cruise ships and in the parks. It's they just do it in a way where it's like it's their own. It's a big scope. Like they go all out.
Beautiful cameras, by the way. Them and Magic Journeys, as far as 4K.
That was actually my other.
Sorry. Do apologize.
No.
Go ahead.
That's where it ties in. That's great because that's where Magic Journeys and Ordinary Adventures, like their equipment that they use. I mean, it's beautiful.
Crazy.
Trust me, I've seen their 4K stuff on a 4K TV. Wow, that is something. Like that is great stuff. Great viewing experience for sure.
Yeah, no, a lot of great content creators out there. We just tip of the iceberg mentioned here today. There's a lot of options out there. Just a lot of great people doing a lot of great work, a lot of passion out there. And that's my thing is if you have a passion for something, I'm drawn to you. You know what I'm saying? Like that I respect that. I absolutely, whether I agree or disagree with you, if you have that passion, I respect it.
And to that point, OG, I mean, some people I've watched in the past lost that passion, and I kind of, stopped watching them as a result. It definitely is that dual-edged sword. If you're passionate, I definitely want to watch. But if you kind of lose it and it becomes more like a cash grab, to tune out. So,
Yeah.
And that's
maybe
where
the
I
people
give
I
it
didn't mention. Maybe that's why.
give it to paging Mr. Morrow and even to Jackie from Super Enthused. When I see them in the parks, they're not looking for how many Patreons do I have? Oh, I'm doing a live feed. Who's going to send me $20 for closing out the park in 5 minutes? It's like they're genuine people that just like
channel for that. Yeah.
And by the way, I believe congratulations to Jackie and what is it? Expedition Theme Park. They tied the knot there. It's kind of a nice combination of stuff there. Great stuff. Great stuff in the community for sure.
100%. We have a great community. Support people, lift them up. We're all in this together.
Yeah,
to quote High School Musical,
Support the small channels too. I mean, support the channels you want to watch, but if there's a smaller channel like under 10K subs that you feel like is doing great stuff, like comment, you guys, like comments, like people don't understand comments, like subscribes help, like boost those channels up. Like there's so many great channels that have like not that many subs, like Theme Park Wizard, Mouse Vibes. Obviously all of us here, like just give them shout outs, watch their stuff. So a lot of good small channels out there.
100%. And actually, I do want to give an honorable mention to Mr. Cheesy Pop.
Oh yeah,
Maxwell Glick.
Cheesy Pop, yeah. He's fun.
Yeah, he's awesome, dude. He's a really nice guy. I actually met him in 2019 in Galaxy's Edge, and he was like the nicest guy ever, man. This guy is really awesome. Yeah, really cool guy.
Great.
Yep. But Sean, I want to thank you, brother, for coming on. As always, ranking the mouse. If you can let everyone at home know where they can find you on social media, sir. And of course, you'll be linked down below as well. So.
Yeah. So you can find me on Twitter at Bob Iger, BOBIGER. I am on Instagram at Robert Iger. And then I have a TikTok, Daddy Ig. You guys can Ranking the Mouse, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram. Hit me up there. We have great discussions on Twitter, YouTube, all that good stuff. So recently had Vash and OG on my channel on Ranking the Mouse, and George got to get you on soon as well. George over there. Come check those out. Just had a recent, really good long one with Dre recently, and then OG was on a couple months ago. So come check those out. And thanks guys for having me.
We love you, Sean. And Dre or Dr. Dre or the world's famous historian or Vash Sky or the host of Freshly Squeezed, whatever title he goes by now. I don't know. Let everyone know where they can find you.
I'm gonna have to sub this out for the titles that
all
I
your
have.
titles.
Yeah, exactly. I gotta have my degrees up here, I guess. No, I really do appreciate you, Sean, coming in. I mean, this was a phenomenal discussion. Thank you so much.
We love you, brother.
Hey, if you guys want to follow me, you can go ahead and do so right down there at Vash Sky. Just go ahead and type in Twitters. Should pop up right there for we'll do it for the Christine's
Waysigns McCarthy for all the robust discussion.
You gotta do it a little bit, right? I know Jay from Story Geeks actually. Go follow him as well.
Oh, another
I love that drop.
Story Geeks.
Oh, phenomenal stuff. You can't do it because it's like it's adjacent. You gotta. But
you have a lot of links to link down in the description. You're gonna be busy for a long time.
I'm gonna help him with it because there's a lot. But no. If you want to see me, it's gonna be on the channel you're watching right now at Orange Grove 55 at Freshly Squeezed, your source for juice, news, and info squeezed fresh right from the Grove.
But really, nothing compares with a freshly squeezed.
And I do agree, Adam the another great YouTuber. Nothing compares with Freshly Squeezed.
Absolutely. And I'm going to do 2 fingers because that's the Disney point. 2 fingers down below. Mr. Family Man. You let me know where they can find you on social media, sir.
Absolutely. You can find me on my YouTube channel, Disney Family Man 23. You can interact with me on Twitter at Disney George. And of course, you can find me here on Orange Grove 55 with Citrus Corner with all that sweet, juicy, but yet sometimes sticky Disney news and info.
Before we go, we need to see George and OG's shirts real quick. Got to go a couple more shout outs. Shout out to Theme Park Casual and shout out to
we got a Theme Park Casual right here. Yep. Shout out to our boy Theme Park Casual. We love casual. George. There we go.
And I think that's like pretty much self-explanatory.
Yes. Very on brand. Very on brand.
I mean, I can drop the I can do the Carl Jr. drop if you guys want. It's up to you guys though.
Just hit it.
Let's go.
I agree with her. It's a little hot. It's a little hot.
If my wife is watching, I promise I closed my eyes during that segment, Jeff. George and I didn't watch that part.
I want to thank you guys so much for coming on today. It was a fantastic conversation. And I want to thank you for watching today. Comment down below with your favorite Disney entertainment YouTubers. Comment down below with your thoughts on the Magic Key renewal and just the overall situation. Comment down below with what your thoughts are on regarding the Bob Iger legacy. A lot of interesting thoughts on that. We'd love to hear from you guys and gals. As always, comment down below. And as always, have a wonderful, wonderful day.